In the small kingdom of Siltrasso, situated in the north, a meeting was about to begin. A young man and an elder were facing off against each other. The young man was the head of the Freedom Association, Yuki Kagurazaka. The elder's name was Johann Rostra. He was the biggest financial backer of the Freedom Association, and a major figure within the council, being the Duke of the Kingdom of Rostra. Given his surname being Rostra, his being the elder brother to the current king of Rostra was obvious. Yet in truth, his real identity was one of the 5 great elders manipulating the council. They often gathered for their secret meetings in this land, the Kingdom of Siltrasso. This small kingdom on the border was perfect to fool the Western nations, since an espionage organization held their secret base here, the best espionage organization among the Western nations, in fact. It was called the Silt Foreign Information Bureau. His organization set its attention beyond the petty disputes of humans, and instead aimed to deter threats of monsters. Its purpose was for crisis management. Therefore, the agents from the agencies all had impressive portfolios. Every single member was ranked B or above. They were few in number, but could all be considered as the elite among the elite. With such agents guarding the kingdom, infiltration of spies from other nations was impossible. That was why they chose this location to conduct their secret meetings. Begin your report. Okay. Demon Lord Rimuru has completely seen through me and seems to have grown suspicious of me. That being said, I sent the Eastern merchants in my stead and took various detours, so no evidence was left. In that case, couldn't you have made up an excuse? Johann questioned. My subordinate suggested the same thing, but even if I did, wouldn't I still be in danger? This is a demon lord we are talking about. If I were to get on his bad side, it's no different than stepping on a tiger's tail. Yuki replied. Yuki reported that Rimuru was suspicious of him, not trying to shroud that fact. Indeed, Johann of the 5 great elders was Yuki's superior. That being said, their relationship was strictly business-related. The reason they preserved their relationship was due to the fact that both sides stood to gain a profit. The council funded the Freedom Association, while the Freedom Association accepted jobs from the council in return. The two organizations were equal in status and supported each other. All the aforementioned relations were a facade. The Freedom Association needed outside funds. If they were to operate in other nations, they required the respective nations' approval and care. Without such support, they wouldn't be able to continue. While the association had greater influence than when it was just a mutual aid society for the adventurers, in terms of authority and power, the council was still superior. Moreover, the reason why Yuki was able to expand the Freedom Association in just a span of a few years was due to the aid of the great elder Johann. It was also why Yuki was willing to take on great risks in his plans. Not even you can beat that demon lord. Don't be absurd. From what I've seen, he's got more than 100 rank A personnel. There's no way I could deal with that. That's a lot. I see that it was indeed the wiser choice not to antagonize them. But... Johann paused before turning to Yuki with a sharp eye. He continued. The Grand Elder has been complaining about Demon Lord Rimuru being in our way. Yuki, are you aware that this is because of your misstep? Ha, what do you mean? I'm talking about your plan to work with Demon Lord Clement. Had your plan succeeded, even without those difficult Eastern merchants, we would still be able to trade with the Empire. In addition, in another couple of 100 years, Valdora would be eliminated, and Great Jura Forest would no longer pose a threat. Moreover, the 2 demon lords Carrion and Free would also become the barrier to protect us. Yet you. Let's not go there. I couldn't have controlled what happened in the first place. I never expected such an anomaly would get in the way. That's not something I could have predicted during the initial planning. Johann was one of the people who were in on Yuki and his party's plans. They had tinkered with the amusement the demon lords had conspired to set up in order to manipulate events to their favor. It was because of the possibility of success that... Indeed, you are correct. It's not something you could control. You couldn't have expected a monster like that to intervene with our affairs. Nonetheless, shouldn't you be able to defeat him? A young girl entered from the open gate without a sound. She was Mariabell Rosso, the person who created the first draft of their entire scheme. There were now 3 men in the room. Mariabell walked in and sat on the most luxurious seat in the room. Oh, it's Mariabell I see. Where's Grand Elder Grandbell? Grandfather isn't here today, it's just me. But that's irrelevant, I demand an answer to my question. Mariabell hadn't come looking for Johann, her eyes were fixed on Yuki. Under her watch, Yuki spoke. It is impossible for me. Fighting Demon Lord Rimuru alone would be difficult, and with the Storm Dragon there as well, that's not something I can handle. In fact, no human can handle that kind of threat. You've seen Valdora yourself? Mariabell asked doubtfully. Yes, in his human form. He did, however, address himself as Valdora. Yuki answered honestly to Mariabell's every question. To Mariabell, this was only natural. I suppose you are right. Demon Lord Rimuru would be the key to sealing Valdora. If we leave that evil dragon unaddressed, it will, surely, rain catastrophe on the world. That's what grandfather told me. Indeed. Grand Elder Granbell lived through the era when that evil dragon rampaged freely. He told me time and again that it was no wonder why God was always so cautious. The evil dragon Vildora was tamed by Demon Lord Rimuru, so it would be dangerous to make a move on them. However, for the future glory of us Rosso, we have to take down the head of the Tempest Federation. This is a tough situation we have at hand. Yuki, are you sure you can't defeat Demon Lord Rimuru if you bring out your real skills? Johan asked once more. On top of Mariabell's query, the same question was repeated 3 times. Surely Yuki awful people would be able to defeat Demon Lord Rimuru. To these questions, Yuki gave the same answers each time, although this is not exactly the case, in truth. Even Hinata was defeated by him. Surely it will be difficult for me to triumph, should I challenge him. But perhaps my chance of success could increase dramatically in the right circumstances. Yuki was almost saying, if it's just Demon Lord Rimuru, we may still come up with something. Mariabell stared at Yuki as she pondered. Then, what are you planning? Well, first we need to avoid antagonizing Demon Lord Rimuru. My guess is that even if we emerged victorious, the sacrifices would far outweigh any benefits we married. Yuki proceeded to explain their future plans, including Kagali's expedition to investigate the ruins. So, under Mariabell's order, Yuki even gave out all the information regarding Clement. Mariabell and Johan intended to utilize this to begin their own operations. She had some ideas. Whether it was to neutralize or eliminate Demon Lord Rimuru completely, this matter needed to be settled. Otherwise, the grand dream of the Rosso would never come true. Well, they could easily take over the world if they were to collaborate with Demon Lord Rimuru. Mariabell thought that this would be their last resort, and should only be considered when they were truly out of options. The reason was the drastic difference in their ideals. In this life, Mariabell hoped to remove gold as the universal currency, and instead promote paper money in each nation's economy. She didn't want all the available currencies to just disappear. Instead, she wanted each nation to have their own currency. It didn't necessarily have to be paper. It could be silver, copper, or whatever. As long as the economy of the world converted to using paper money, whose value would be determined by its nation's power, and its exchange rate reflected that. And this power would be set by the council, by the will of the 5 great elders. The key to success here was for the elders to be able to determine the value of nations. Weak countries could be taxed heavily, or they could be forced to perform laborious military service in the name of subjugating monsters. Through legal means, they could be converted into vassals of stronger nations. With these conditions set, nothing stood in the way of their grand plan. Using the economy to manipulate the members of the Western States Council, this plan that was drafted by Mariabell and carried out by Granbell would be successful. For the past few years, they had built the foundation. Yet now, this foundation was being torn up. Due to the sudden rise of Demon Lord Rimuru and the Tempest Federation, all hell broke loose with their plan. Mariabell could already see how things would progress. Demon Lord Rimuru planned to provide a defensive force to earn the trust of the Western nations, letting moderate economic relations be tolerated against the backdrop of a mighty military force. This was Demon Lord Rimuru's plan. By using the small nation of Blument as his base of operations, he would expand his influence to the Western nations. In doing so, he would control the flow of goods, and people would become happier doing labor while he ensured their safety. What kind of a joke is that? Mariabell cursed internally. For large kingdoms such as Dworgen and Sarian, since they were more self-sustaining, Mariabell would still tolerate their existence outside her grasp despite discontent. Yet now the Tempest Federation deliberately entered Mariabell's territory. Their willingness to join the Western States Council was, without a doubt, a declaration of war against Mariabell and the Rosso. They wanted to disrupt Mariabell's hunting ground. She could not accept that no matter what. For 2 men to ride on a horse, one must sit behind the other. Mariabell was certain that she and Demon Lord Rimuru were incapable of coexisting peacefully. There could only be one ruler, the one with greater power. If you weren't the one making the game's rules, then you won't be able to win. Since the Rosso aimed to rule over humanity, Demon Lord Rimuru was undoubtedly a hindrance. Even if they could negotiate at the start, in the long run, the 2 sides would eventually confront each other in pursuit of different interests. This was why Mariabell considered Demon Lord Rimuru a threat. Yet, to eliminate Demon Lord Rimuru, that was easier said than done. In order to observe Demon Lord Rimuru by herself, Mariabell actually attended the opening festival. She convinced Granbell that she wouldn't do anything reckless and set out towards the nation by herself. It turned out her guess was on the money. The Jura Tempest Federation was too charming of a nation. Its capital would surely become the city of desire and lead future trends in the wake of a new age. This nation's value would only grow as it established more alliances and strengthened relationships with other nations. In time, the world would no longer be in the Rosso's grasp. Yes, that's right, everything must have been going according to Demon Lord Rimuru's plan. Mariabell was upset at that thought, almost wanting to break down in a tantrum. But she managed to restrain her fury before planning what to do in the future. Simply defeating the opponent was not an option. Even if they were to succeed, they couldn't dismiss Fildora and his unpredictability. The legendary being took out 20,000 elite troops single-handedly. It would be most unwise to allow it to rampage freely. With this being the case, the only solution here was to neutralize the threat, but in what way should we give the character the stick? If using the stick, Duke Muse's case was a telling example of failure. Under Mariabell's careful planning, the game was to do a favor for the Demon Lord Rimuru. Yet he didn't play by the rules and instead retaliated. Duke Muse might have proven his stupidity in misjudging the situation, but his connection to Demon Lord Rimuru was worthy of praise. Indeed, it was extremely stupid to have alerted them so easily.